Good evening, sisters loved by God, and welcome to week 4 of our Bible study, Children of the Day. In case you missed homework this last week, I just want you to know, keyword, hindrances. That will pretty much wrap up all of last week's homework. But it was so good. She really camped out on a theme, but she took it so many different places that I don't know about you, but I got so much out of it. It just really, one day I'd be like, man, this really spoke to me, and thinking like, okay, that's going to be the day that that one's mine. Then the next day I'd get to it and I'm like, wow, that is really good. It was just one of those weeks that, maybe it wasn't for you, but it was totally for me. So, in case you missed it, you're all caught up. Hindrances. So, there was 3 sources of hindrances that she talked about. The first one was Satan. Obviously, it's the number one, thing that we like to blame as Christians when hindrances come our way. And some of them just flat out are Satan. Sometimes there are just obstacles and delays that Satan will place in front of us just because he is here to steal, kill, and destroy, girls. And in 1 Thessalonians 2:18, it was talking about where Paul and Silas and them were hindered by Satan. It said Satan hindered them from being able to go back and see the Thessalonians. They weren't able to physically go back to the Thessalonians, even though they dearly longed to go back and see these people. And Satan hindered them. It just flat out told us it was because of Satan. But here's some just encouragement on that note. We're on the winning team, and I love when God will take some of these delays that Satan thinks he's getting the triumph in, and he will make them God-appointed delays. I had a recent experience with this where I desperately needed to get some of my college homework done, and I was like frantic. I had like an hour. It was when Nick was in surgery, honestly, for his face, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm in a waiting room, there's nobody around, I'm going to sit in silence for at least a good hour and just be able to get through some of this stuff. I mean, we're not talking 5 minutes into my homework, and this lady walked into the waiting room that honestly, first impression, was not real good. She walked in, and it's one of those things that the way she talked and the way that she answered people and the tone that she used, I was like, ooh, please don't sit by me, please don't sit by me. Of course she sat by me. But she sat by me and immediately started talking to me. And before long, I realized this is a God-appointed delay. Shut the textbook, put it aside, talk to this lady for the straight hour that I was in the waiting room. And I'm so glad I did. I was able to pray with this sweet, sweet lady. And she had just lost her daughter that summer to a freak illness that they were not expecting, that came out of nowhere. And in the blink of an eye, that daughter was gone, and she was still not coping with it. And I was able to sit there and just talk to her and love on her and pray with her before she left. That was a God-appointed delay. Satan may have wanted to aggravate me and make me, get angry and to be ugly towards this woman to make her problem worse, but I didn't cave in. And I recognized, thank goodness, only by God's grace, that was a God-appointed delay. And I love it when God has those moments. The second one was other people. This is obviously, one that we face all the time. There's just other people that are going to be a hindrance to us in one way or another. And, God, the bottom line is God works through relationships. Satan revels in discord. Period. You guys can fill in the blanks. I don't even need to go into this one. Other people can be our hindrance, but you got to remember, they're still children of God, and we have to love them no matter what, because our enemy is not with them. They're not our enemy. Our enemy is the spiritual, darkness and the spirits and Satan that causes these people to come up. It's not them. Just remember that, okay? The third thing was our own beautiful selves. We can be our own biggest problem sometimes. And I loved the quote on page 67 of our workbooks, girls. It said, let me preface. It was talking about when there's sometimes like things and events or things that we're a part of that are really a big hindrance, and we're making it a hindrance, and God's going, I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't ask you to do that. And we're like justifying it, going, but it's Bible study. I'm supposed to do Bible studies. Like, I'm supposed to do that as a good Christian. It's, my job to do Bible study. But sometimes, this was the quote, page 67, she said, they're not wrong, they're just wrong right now. And a lot of times, girls, that's where we get ourselves in trouble, because we play that Christian justification in our head of, but it's a good thing. How is a good thing, bad? It's not bad, it's a good thing. And we wage this war in our head, and we're our own biggest enemy, because we just have to accept that even though it looks good, and maybe it won't make sense to other people of why we're saying no to this, or why we're laying this down right now and not being a part of this or doing this, that bottom line is God didn't call you to that right now. If God didn't call you to that right now, it's a hindrance to you, and it shouldn't be in your life. Page 70, she got into, and this is where it got really good, she got into specific hindrances in our lives, and she listed examples of these hindrances, but I loved what she turned it into at the end. The highlighted part on page 70 was, what if, instead of fixating on taking the hurt out of our hindrance, we prayed for God to take the hindrance out of our hurt. I'm going to repeat that because it kind of gets jumbled up in there. Look at your book if you need to really soak this in. It says, what if, instead of fixating on taking the hurt out of our hindrance, we instead prayed for God to take the hindrance out of our hurt. She gave some examples, and I just wanted to list a couple to you tonight. She said, if you took, the hindrance of childhood trauma, but you took the hindrance of childhood trauma out of it, you'll get an amazing testimony out of it. The hurt is still there, but you took the hindrance out, and now it's an amazing testimony to other people, and that's going to bring glory to the kingdom of heaven. Another one was my pain minus my hindrance equals my passion. Things that may have been my pain, if I let the hindrance be taken out of the equation, now it's going to become my passion. One that I wrote, because she left a couple blanks where you could fill in your own. One that I wrote was, my own insecurities minus the hindrance of my insecurities can really equal my full reliance on God. Because if I'm not hindered by my insecurity, then I'm just aware of it, and I can live that I need God and I rely on God, and that's a good place to be as a child of God, is to know and to realize that you rely on God for your very breath, and that all these things that you do, it's not for your glory, it's for His glory, and it's only because of His glory that you accomplished it in the first place. I brought my boat today. It's actually my kids' boat, go figure. This is one of their bathtub toys, but this is going to represent us today, okay? I'm going to give you a little visual lesson. So this is us, and this is water in here, can you see it? Is going to be our life, right? And we want to take our boat, we want to take us, and we want to, dock into our lives, and we want it to go like this. You ready? Okay, that wasn't very good. Let me try that again. Ready? That was more beautiful, right? We just want to sail through life, right? On smooth, glassy water, and we want it to be beautiful. We want our family to just be perfect and the shining examples of everything, right? Is that reality? I don't know what world you're living in. That's not my reality. So let me make it a little more realistic. You ready? Okay, this looks a little more like my reality. It is bumpy. My boat is going back and forth at times. It wanted to crash out. And you know what? Even some water's spilling out. There's just things just spilling out over the place that, really we're just keep that all in. Just please, that's embarrassing. Keep that all in. But it doesn't. It just spills out. And that's our reality. That, our life is messy. And, you think about hindrances. When you're in this boat and you're going against waves, it's a hindrance. It's a delay. It takes more time when you have to take a boat through a storm and rough waves, where if it's glassy water, you can just zoom through the water. This takes more time. This takes more effort. This takes a lot more brain power to think about how you need to steer that boat and what direction it needs to go so the wave doesn't capsize it or whatnot. But we think about that in our lives. Look at Paul and Silas in this book, our authors. I leave out Timothy. Look at what our authors went through that penned 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Okay, just Paul alone was shipwrecked, go figure, shipwrecked 3 times. He was imprisoned. He was stoned more than once. And this is just like the top of his list. You know, in our homework, it actually had us go through this one time where he listed out all of these things that he'd been through, all of his hindrances, and I was like, holy smokes, I do not have it that bad. You know, we complain about like busy schedules and about like cliques and, you know, all these like silly things, and really like we're not being, you know, we don't have boulders being thrown at us. We are not like on some deserted island because our ship like literally just sunk. We do not have it that bad. And so, you know, just use that as encouragement. You know, life is not going to be your beautiful sail through. You know, God didn't design it that way. Well, God did design it that way. Let me rephrase that. But because of our sin, it doesn't get to be that way right now. But also remember, this is very temporary and very short-lived. And if we trudge through and we stay with it, girls, we're going to reach that other side where it's going to be that perfect Garden of Eden again. And it's all worth that journey. All of that is worth the journey and every bump and every wave. And just remember, Paul and Silas had it so much worse than you. Before we stop tonight, I gave you an index card and a pen this Sunday. Don't you like these little gifts? They may not continue, so enjoy them while you can. You get an index card, piece of paper, and a pen this week, but I want you to actually pause the video. Not yet, let me tell you what to do with it first. But pause the video here in a minute, and I want you to write out Romans 8:37. I want you to write out Romans 8:37 on that index card right now, and then pick this video back up. Okay, you got your verse? All right, now I want to read you a few verses. That verse is going to be included, but while I'm reading these verses, I want you to listen for assurances that our afflictions are never wasted. All those bumpy waves are never ever wasted, and not one of them is purposelessness. Does that make sense? None of them goes without a purpose. So we're going to start in Romans 8:18 if you want to follow along. Romans 8:18 says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The next one is Romans 23-29. 23 starts out, not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what he already has? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints in accordance with God's will. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be also predestined. Oh, look at that, I'm reading over it. Let's read it again. Predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. I don't know about you, but that is some good encouragement to me. That when my boat gets to the other side of all those rough waves, that none of it was wasted. None of it. I want to leave you with a quote, again from our homework book, on page 73. And it said, God used what surely felt like complete disorganization and detouring to stick a pen in their hands. She's referring to the authors of 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, and if you did the homework, you saw that they went through here and there and all over the place, and that it just seemed like delay after delay and hindrance after hindrance, and yet they come to a place where they were almost forced to write this letter. It wasn't like pre-planned to write this letter. They had to, because it was one of those moments of throw all the planning out, like we just need a backup plan. What's plan B? Plan B is, what can we do? We can write a letter. Let's write a letter. It was out of one of those moments, those panic moments, that we we all know too well that 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, the book that we still study today and that God purposely penned and breathed his life into, he took that out of that panic moment. That was technically plan B. I don't know about you, but I love encouragement like that, where I'm like, God, this seems like, I'm just like throwing something up into the, midair here, like just, grab it, do something with it. But it's in those moments sometimes that God brings things like this out of it. And what an amazing assurance of that. Our assurance that our afflictions are never wasted. So, I love you, sisters loved by God, and enjoy video 4. Am I right? Video 4. Oh, wait. I wrote this so much better in my script, and I have to read it too because it is fall now, right, girls? I said, sit back with your Bible, your book, a pen, and maybe if you're lucky, a yummy pumpkin latte, and soak up video 4. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.